medical examiner says an Ellington woman was killed in her home after being shot in the head and stomach. The victim has been identified as 39-year-old Connie Dabate. State police say that they went to the home on Birchview Drive on Wednesday after a burglary alarm went off. Investigators also found 39-year-old Richard Dabate with non-life-threatening injuries, along with smoke in the home.
In the early hours of December 23, 2015, a 911 call was placed from a suburban Connecticut home. A husband claimed a masked intruder had tied him up, tortured him, and shot his wife before fleeing into the winter woods. But something didn't add up. Before the murder and the mystery and the mantra of Fitbit murder, there was a person. Connie Marie Dabate. A devoted mother, a friend, a neighbor, a life woven into the ordinary fabric of her Connecticut community. Connie wasn't famous. She wasn't a headline waiting to happen. She was a 39-year-old woman who loved her family, her kids, and the rhythm of everyday life. She wore her Fitbit not as a badge of vanity, but as a thread in the cloth of her routine. Walks, gym workouts, daily steps. Her husband, Richard, was also part of that world. Someone who stood beside her in photos, who shared the morning drop-offs and the quiet dinners. A professional with business plans, emails, calendars. On December 23rd, they were supposed to be together. Instead, only one would make it through the day alive. And yet, at the outset of the investigation, Richard's story sounded plausible. Intruder, basement, chaos. Maybe if we close our eyes, you can hear the dispatch calling for paramedics, the frantic breathing, the muffled pleas. But what detectives would find, not in the blood or in the bullet, but in the silent logs of a wrist device, would unravel everything.
You would think that they would have any sort of lead by this point, right?
2 weeks and still no arrest in the murder of a young Ellington mother. 39-year-old Connie Dabate was found dead just before Christmas.
Police responded to her Birchview Drive home after the house alarm was activated. They found her husband, Richard Dabate, injured inside the smoky home. Police later found Connie with gunshot wounds to the head and stomach. Her death ruled a homicide, but police have yet to make an arrest, and they've said there is no threat to the public.
2 weeks after the murder, police still had no suspect, no arrests, no clear motive. For the people who lived here, the questions were starting to feel personal.
People in town tell me the more time passes without answers, the more the rumor mill seems to churn.
I mean, these guys are like family. You know, these ladies have been coming in forever.
Luann Lanzieri hears a lot of the Ellington town chatter inside her nail salon on West Road.
And there's a lot of rumors going around.
Rumors about the murder of Ellington mom Connie Dabate. And 2 weeks since the crime, there's still been no arrest.
It seems like every day someone's coming in and asking, have you heard anything else? You know, this is what we heard.
Luann says most people are confident the police will find whoever killed her childhood friend.
I grew up with her in Vernon as well when she was little. And she was always a wonderful person, so I hope they find the correct person that did this to her.
To law enforcement at first, it seemed like a tragic home invasion gone wrong. But seasoned detectives noticed inconsistencies almost immediately.
Detectives are working very hard. They're waiting for a lot of evidence to come back from the labs. They want all their ducks in a row before they can make a decision of what's going on.
The basement where Connie lay was isolated. No signs of forced entry. No footprints or prints of another person. The rope that supposedly bound Richard was oddly placed, not consistent with self-defense. And his calmness on the 911 call didn't match someone who had just grappled with an intruder. Something was off. Yet at this point, the investigation still followed the obvious. Forensic teams scoured rooms, neighbors were interviewed, and the search for physical evidence began. But as theory met reality, the case stalled until someone asked a simple question. Where was Connie in the minutes before her death?
The story also capturing national attention because of the Fitbit activity tracker being used as evidence. Police say information on Connie's Fitbit contradicts Dabate's story, showing she was moving around an hour after he said she was killed.
The answer came from an unexpected source: her Fitbit. Before her life was taken, Connie's wearable had been collecting data. Not just steps, but timestamps, activity logs, and movement metrics. And that data flatly contradicted Richard's version of events. Because while Richard claimed the shooting occurred before 9 a.m., Connie's Fitbit showed she was still moving around the house as late as 10:05 a.m. That detail alone didn't convict anyone, but it exposed the lie. And detectives didn't stop there. They pulled Richard's computer logs, revealing he had been online during the same time window, contradicting his claim that he was on the phone with his employer, stuck on the side of the road. Suddenly, the investigation was no longer about intruder theory. It was about motive, timing, and digital footprints that couldn't be erased.
In the nearly 6 years since Connie died, the case has faced setbacks. One of Dabate's lawyers died in June. Then in August, a judge dismissed all jurors and ordered new ones be selected, reasoning it had been too long since they were seated before the pandemic shut down courts. Those matters need to be dealt with before the case finally makes it to trial. Angelo Bavaro, Fox 61 News.
Think of Connie's Fitbit like a stubborn witness. It keeps records, timestamps, activity logs, steps she didn't take, heart rates that don't lie. Forensic analysts pulled that data and began constructing a timeline. 9 a.m., a reportedly fatal incident should have occurred. 10:05 a.m., Fitbit logs show activity, movement inconsistent with death. That one contradiction rewrote the morning, but it didn't stop there. Investigators collated computer usage logs, emails accessed at times. Richard claimed he was stranded, home phone metadata. No evidence of a frenetic struggle being picked up outside. The panic alarm record, triggered at a time that didn't consistent with the timeline Richard provided. Even the 911 call itself, when dissected, didn't have the cadence of real panic. It sounded rehearsed, staged.
Husband arrested, charged with murdering his wife more than a year ago. Thank you so much for staying up with us at 10 o'clock. I'm Lorenzo Hall.
And I'm Audrey Kuchin. Connie Dabate, an Ellington mother of two, brutally murdered in her home 2 days before Christmas. Well, tonight, finally, a break in that case. A newly released 50-page arrest warrant revealing what was happening inside that home, inside that marriage.
Lorenzo, Audrey, this is that 50-page arrest warrant for Richard Dabate that was released almost an hour ago. Now, it's filled with dozens of details about the day of the scene, and we're still going through it, but here are a few points that stand out so far. Now, Rick Dabate claims an intruder shot his wife Connie in front of him and then burned him in a struggle. Now, the warrant claims an intruder then tied Dabate up to a chair in the kitchen and fled. However, when law enforcement arrived to the scene, a canine unit was unable to find any additional evidence of this claim or any signs of another individual fleeing the property on foot.
After delays for pandemic restrictions and a lengthy trial with over 600 exhibits and 130 witnesses, the jury saw the truth. On May 10, 2022, Richard was convicted on murder, tampering with evidence, making false statements to police. The sentence? A term extending well into the future. A lifetime without parole. Connie's Fitbit didn't kill her, but it gave her a voice the moment her earthly one was silenced. In a modern age where devices record our movements, our heart rates, our very rhythms of life, that data can become the most honest witness in the room. This wasn't sensationalist gossip. It wasn't clocked steps or calories gone viral. It was a life, and then the truth of a death revealed, told by the digital echo of a woman who deserved justice. And in every step her device logged that morning, there lies a legacy. Technology doesn't forget. But sometimes, people do.